Hi everyone, my name is Hillary Eaton and I'm the Assistant Director of the Career and Professional Development Center at South Dakota Mines. Imagine a hiring manager has reached out to you and asked you to schedule an interview. There's just one catch though, it's going to be virtual. This scenario is becoming increasingly more common, and this process enables employers to open up their talent pool while also cutting down on travel expenses and can be used in times of need. For candidates, trying to make a pitch via video conferencing software, it can feel a bit daunting. Therefore, I'm going to be talking with you today about virtual interview tips to help you reduce your stress and help you land that job. First and foremost, determine where to take the interview. Find a room with optimal lighting, preferably near a window or a blank wall to guarantee that you're going to be the focal point of the conversation. And the trick here is to keep the light in front of you. If your house is void of empty walls, set up in your home office or living room, whichever area looks the most businesslike. Whether you sit on your living room couch or in your home office, tidy up your surroundings. It's hard to convince employers that you're detail-oriented and organized when there's laundry visibly piling up in the corner. Once settled, eliminate all distractions. Turn off the TV, silence your cell phone, and close any nearby windows to muffle neighborhood traffic or outside noises. The color of your backdrop can help determine what you should wear the day of so that you don't look washed out or blend in with your wall. You might be sitting near your bed, but you shouldn't look like you just rolled out of it. Dress the same way you would for an in-person interview. The Career and Professional Development Center would recommend business professional dress, which includes suits and ties, blazers, solid color blouses, dress slacks, skirts. Avoid wearing bright or distracting colors, overpowering patterns, or large jewelry. Professional clothing will show that you're serious about the position, but there are some personal benefits as well. Studies suggest that people feel most authoritative, trustworthy, and competent when wearing formal business attire. You want the focus to be on you and their experience of your wonderful interview, not on a distracting outfit. Here are some examples that I referenced in the previous slide of professional business dress. And the question is it possible to overdress? And the answer is yes. Don't wear tuxedos or things that you'd wear to weddings that are overly dressed or black tie, as you do want to remain professional and show that you're serious about the position. Check your internet connectivity and confirm your camera is working when you're notified of the upcoming interview and again on the morning of the interview. If the picture is grainy, you might need to buy a mini webcam with a built-in microphone. Don't procrastinate on this as it's vital to your success. Also, follow the platform's troubleshooting guidance if needed. Being technically literate is one of the top traits employers look for in candidates, and by fumbling around with your audio or lighting during the call, you might just give the hiring manager a reason to question whether you're the right candidate for the position. When given an option, use your phone to call into the meeting instead of relying on your computer audio, which can sometimes be unstable. Remember to mute your computer audio or click the setting in the software to mute your computer audio so you don't get the dreaded echo. Typically, home internet isn't as robust as an office network, and this means that if you have all your family members streaming movies or playing games, you might experience bandwidth issues, so have them turn off for a short period of time during your virtual interview. Depending on what type of system is being used for your interview, the software will have options for you to practice or test before you get started. A few systems are listed here that you may potentially use for virtual interviews. However, this is not an exhaustive list, and employers may have their own specific virtual interviewing software that they request you to use. To begin, you'll want to set up a quick test meeting for yourself and help you get communication settings all squared away. Also, you'll want to get comfortable with the platform, so make sure to navigate around the site and read up on how to effectively use it so you won't run into any issues the day of the interview. Again, being technically literate is important. These platforms may also have frequently asked question pages for additional information or answers on troubleshooting issues. You can't firmly shake a hiring manager's hand or as easily exude enthusiasm via video, but nonverbal communication accounts for 80% of communication with others, so what you can do is monitor your body language. On video, your body language becomes even more obvious and it's important for you to manage. So position yourself looking straight at the camera and don't slouch, yawn, or fidget. And this is not the time for an angled down selfie pose either. The main way to communicate confidence is to sit up straight, smile, and keep the camera at eye level. Maintaining the illusion of eye contact by looking at the webcam and not at your image on your computer screen. I know this can definitely be difficult, but make sure to position yourself correctly at the beginning of the interview and you won't need to worry about this later on. Research suggests that employers are more likely to remember what you said if you maintain eye contact, so keep your focus on the camera when talking and not on the image of the hiring manager. Also, you'll want to avoid shuffling papers or shifting around during the call. Also, try to avoid shifting your mic if you're using headphones, as this can cause feedback on the interviewer's end. Here's a helpful tip. Pin notes or your resume beside your camera, or write your talking points on a post-it note, which you can place around your computer screen to avoid excess shuffling and to easily recall your talking points and questions that you have at the end of the interview for the employer. A key task for a recruiter is determining whether you'd be a good fit for the company culture. This could be challenging during a virtual interview because it's more difficult for the interviewer to understand your enthusiasm through the screen. Therefore, make sure this isn't the case for your interview by being expressive when answering questions. You can still assess facial expressions and the level of engagement when speaking virtually to others. Having an interview online is still a meaningful way to engage with others besides face-to-face interactions. And some people will be able to tell if your vibe fits with their company right off the bat. Give them a reason to push you through to the second interview round by being positive and excited about the opportunity and how you'd be the best fit for the organization in this position. You never know how many interviews a company may conduct for a position. You could be at the end of a long list of people the hiring manager spoke to that day, and this is why it's important to make sure that you have a connection and be your professional self. Don't be afraid to have a short aside about a common interest. The recruiter might enjoy the break from the routine questions they have to get through. It's not easy to connect with everyone, but it's a crucial part of virtual interviews. You want the interviewer to be able to remember a personal story you told or a common interest you share. This is the best way to prevent yourself from blending in with the other applicants. So be as conversational as possible, and above all, remember to relax and be yourself. So now let's delve into what an actual interview will look like. There's going to be an opening with introductions, which will be about 5 minutes. So smile. If you're in person, have a firm handshake. And if not, you can do a simple wave or a nod and say, "Hello, my name is, it's great meeting you today." After the introductions comes the information exchange, which is about 20 minutes. The employer is going to ask you about 7 to 8 questions to help decide whether you'd be a good fit for that position and be able to assess your skills, but also your attitude, work ethic, and any additional qualities that you have. The closing is going to be about 5 minutes, and this is where we would recommend having 2 to 3 questions prepared to ask the employer. Always end with a smile, a handshake if you're in person, and a thank you. So to prepare for this interview, this first step is to get to know yourself and ask yourself some deeper questions that maybe you haven't asked before. So what are your long-term and short-term goals professionally? It's important that you flesh these out more because I guarantee you'll be asked these at some point, and it's just good to know when you go forward after graduation into your professional career. Also, what are your strengths? What are some key aspects, skills, or qualifications that you have, or qualities that you have that you bring to the table that make you good fits for the positions you're applying to? And what are your values, and is this position or company a good fit? So take a look at your values, which is a deeper look at yourself and what's important to you in the long term, and see if the company or the position matches those. The next vital step in preparing for an interview is to know the employer. So just like I said in the previous slide, learning your values is also important, but it's also important to know the mission, vision, values, and future focus of the employer that you're looking to get to know more. Look at what do they do? Research the company in advance by looking at their company culture, their management team, who their competition is, and who they serve. And ask yourself, why are you interested in working for this company? Some ways to find this out include looking at the company website, looking at company social media accounts, Glassdoor is great, corporate blogs, or even the news. And this is really important as you're going to be able to showcase yourself as a great candidate, especially if you know more about the company and do your research ahead of time. The third step in preparing for an interview is to practice, of course. You want to make sure that you're practicing responses to behavior-based interview questions. You can look up behavior-based interview types of questions online, or you can look at how to answer the 64 toughest interview questions, which is a PDF you can also find online. Another option would be to set up a mock interview with our Career and Professional Development Center staff. This is going to help you to express yourself clearly and concisely when you go into the professional interview and kind of break the ice. One of the toughest questions that students may be asked in an interview is to tell me about yourself. So our office can help you get prepared for that. The first impression is imperative, whether it be in an in-person interview or a virtual interview. Always make sure to dress appropriately, like we talked about earlier in this presentation. If it's in person, bring an extra resume just in case, or if you're going to do a virtual presentation, make sure that you have a digital copy available to upload if needed. Always arrive early, no matter if it's in person or virtual, and be friendly to everyone you meet. Introduce yourself with a smile and a firm handshake in person, or if it's virtual, a smile, a wave, or a nod. Project self-confidence and poise at all times, and make sure that you're maintaining that eye contact like we talked about earlier in their presentation, as it's going to show your professionalism and they're going to hear you a lot better this way. Be aware of your body language, as it's going to be 80% of your communication, and always stay positive. Never badmouth a former employer or a professor. Conduct yourself professionally from beginning to end. Behavioral job interview techniques are used by all different types of companies. Unlike traditional job interview questions that ask you to describe what you did in a role or to share qualifications, these questions seek concrete examples of skills and experiences that relate directly to the position. Behavioral questions are designed to learn how you would respond to a specific workplace situation and how you solve problems to achieve a successful outcome. Behavioral interview questions are generally formatted by presenting a situation, inquiring about what action you have taken to respond to something similar in the past and what the result was. To prepare for behavior-based interview questions, you want to find out what the specific attributes the employer likely is seeking in a candidate for this job. Make sure to check out the job description beforehand so you can look at different qualifications, qualities, and skills that they are looking for within their verbiage. Also, what specific examples can you provide where you demonstrated the characteristics sought by the employer? Make sure to start looking back at different experiences, whether it be in your academic career, your relevant work experiences, or even some volunteerism or research experiences. The interviewer will ask how you handled the situation, and you'll need to respond with an explanation of what you did. The logic is that your success in the past is a positive indicator of your success in the future. So your question is probably, what's the best example to give? Well, listed below is a PDF of the 64 toughest interview questions, and I would definitely recommend checking this out. The 64 toughest interview questions are some common behavior-based interview questions you may be asked during a job interview. Review the responses and consider how you would answer the questions, so you'll be prepared to give a strong answer. As you can see from the sample responses, it's important to be ready with specific examples and anecdotes. While you don't need to memorize answers, have a sense of what experiences you would like to share and how to describe them to the interviewer. You'll want your examples to be both clear and succinct. When answering behavior-based interview questions, our office recommends using the STAR method. Describe the problem or situation you encountered. What task did you need to complete for that situation? And briefly explain the action that you took. And always, always, always describe the outcome and what you learned from this experience. Most people forget to give the results of what occurred, so make sure that you don't forget that important step. Remember the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. Here are a few tips on answering behavior-based interview questions. Pause for a few seconds before answering the question. If you're especially stumped on a question, you can say, "That's a really great question. May I use a few moments to consider this?" Also, consider experiences outside of work, whether that be in the classroom, student groups, volunteerism, or research experience. And make sure to mention what you learned from each example, just like I said in the previous slide. And it's okay to use the same example twice if it answers those two questions, but make sure not to use it any more than twice. Here are some potential behavior-based sample interview questions that you may be asked by employers. However, this is not an exhaustive list, and this doesn't necessarily mean that employers will ask you any of these or all of these. These are just questions to help you get prepared for that interview so you can have the best interview as possible, and to help you kind of think of different past experiences to answer these questions. Just because you're on a computer doesn't mean you can search the web for answers mid-interview, so avoid clicking around. You want to appear focused and ready to answer the questions without the help of the internet. So make sure to research the company ahead of time and jot down notes for easy reference. Also, print out a copy of your resume so that you don't forget key talking points. It's also best to come prepared with answers to common interview questions such as, why are you interested in this role? What do you know about our company? What are your biggest weaknesses? What do you consider to be your biggest professional achievement? Tell me about a challenging time at work and how you dealt with it. Try to avoid memorizing each response so you don't sound overly rehearsed. Instead, write some high-level thoughts down on a post-it note and you can stick on the side of your computer screen. You should also be prepared to answer, do you have any questions for me? Questions you may ask the employer include, what does a typical day in the life of this role look like? What advice would you give a new hire starting with your company? How would you describe the ideal candidate for this position? Where does this role sit in the organization and what other groups would I potentially be working with? And can you walk me through the next steps of the hiring process? You don't want to sound overly robotic throughout your interview, whether answering or asking questions. It's easy to tell if you aren't being genuine, so it's a good idea to run through a few practice rounds, and you can set that up with our office, the Career and Professional Development Center. This is going to give you a chance to rehearse with different personalities and answer in a variety of different questions. While it may be awkward, you'll have a safe atmosphere to make mistakes and learn from them, so you're better prepared for the real thing. It's important to keep things simple. Don't feel like you have to give a long-winded answer if the question doesn't warrant it, and being clear and concise is one of the most important things in a job interview. Within 24 to 48 hours of your interview, preferably as soon as possible, follow up with a thank you email and try to send an individual thank you email to everyone you met. Not only will this show you value their time, but it provides you the opportunity to reaffirm your interest in the position, reminding them of the top reasons you're a great candidate for the role, or to share any talking points you forgot to address. Also, it's always a professional touch to thank them for their time and consideration. If there is something specific you bonded over, mention that in the email so you stay on top of mind. Or if an interviewer brought up a particular business challenge, use that as a follow-up as a way to propose a potential solution. Just keep the email concise and short. You want your note to leave a lasting impression, not immediately end up in the trash. If you're not sure how to reach the hiring manager directly, you can send it to the contact who helped you schedule your interview and they can forward it on to the hiring manager for you. For most organizations, the virtual interview serves as the first step in the job recruitment process, allowing the company to cast a wide net, screen potential applicants, and narrow the field to the most qualified candidates. It's easy to get thrown for a loop at the prospect of interviewing for a potentially life-changing job from your living room without ever actually meeting another human being. But rest assured, there are many ways to stay calm and in control by using the tips I mentioned throughout this presentation. As difficult as it may be, remember to be yourself. Being yourself is essential for interviewing and will save you from the potential problems in the future. When interviewing, we often just think about proving our value to the employer, but it's just as important for you to make sure that this is going to be the best fit for you as well. Interviews do go both ways. You should be interviewing the employer and making sure it's a good opportunity for you. Being yourself and answering questions authentically will help highlight areas of synergy in contrast with your potential employer. If the company has values that are in total opposition of your own, you may want to consider this information when making your decision about moving forward with this position. Technology snafus can happen. The internet may be interrupted or lagging, or your children may walk into the room fighting, or your dog could start barking if someone knocks on the door. There are a lot of possibilities, so try to mitigate these interruptions as much as possible before the interview, and if they do happen, be positive and roll with these circumstances in a professional manner. By doing this, it's going to demonstrate to the employer that you're adaptable and have a positive attitude when things don't go according to plan. But do make sure that these are not tech issues that should have been ironed out on your end before the interview. Also, make sure that you set yourself up in a different room alone and shut the door if needed to avoid distractions. Ultimately, the key to a successful virtual interview is proper preparation. From ensuring your technology is working, to conducting research before the meeting, to sitting down at your computer poised and ready for any and all questions, these actions will help set you apart from other applicants to better assist you in moving forward in the interview process. Thank you so much for your time and consideration of the Virtual Interviewing 101. Hopefully this presentation has had some helpful tips for you to use and be successful in your future virtual interviews. If you have questions, feel free to contact the Career and Professional Development Center at our email, careercenter@sdsmt.edu, or check out our website at sdsmt.edu/careercenter. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.